Welcome to the first episode of The Man in Charge. My name is Robert, and you might be asking yourself, who is the man in charge? Is it this man sitting in front of this microphone behind this clock right here? No, the man in charge is Jesus Christ, who sits at the right hand of the Father. So, just putting all my cards on the table. So the purpose of this show is financial stewardship and how to do that well. More specifically, we're going to be focusing on the U.S. markets. As you have noticed in the last couple of years, there has been a downward trend when it comes to the common indices like the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. But we're also going to be touching on immoral companies and unethical practices, especially now that we're going into Pride Month. There has been a lot of noise with companies such as Target, the North Face. What's the other one? Oh yeah, Bud Light. So we're going to be touching on that as well. So we can understand what these companies are doing and how the public is responding to the LGBTQ uproar. And so we're going to be seeing how those stocks are doing in the next few weeks. So yeah, this is mostly going to be geared in that and geared towards that, because I've noticed that being around a lot of fellow believers, there's very little information out there that helps them in stock picking and how to approach the market, how to think about risk aversion, and I think one of the most popular Christian financial advisors that are on YouTube would be someone like Dave Ramsey, which is a very conservative approach. But I think once we go beyond that, we can find ways of maximizing the resources that we have, so that we can better steward those profits and help our local church, help our families. And yeah, so that's going to be the goal of this show. But as I mentioned earlier, we are going to be talking about some of those companies that have been embarking with the culture of death, to put it lightly. So we've seen that Target has been involved with a lot of the LGBTQ stuff. A lot of people that go to that you see on social media, you see the LGBTQ clothing being pushed on children, and that's concerning. But we also see that has had an adverse effect on their stock, and we're seeing that a lot of investors are not really happy on that direction, and it might be just a response just to see how the market will react to the LGBTQ, especially when it's in your face. So we're going to do that now. We're going to be looking at the Target stock, and we'll see how it's doing. Give me 1 second and let me pull that up. Yeah, so I've been looking at some of these companies, and it looks like they've all been trending downward. So let's look at Target. Now, maybe like 3 years ago, I remember being an advocate for Target. Target, I think at that time, had a very low PE ratio. For those that know, a PE ratio is just a price to earnings ratio. Like a few years ago, I remember that it had a very attractive PE ratio. It was very affordable. I would consider the Target a value stock. I think it was around $80. I think it was back in 2018. So at that time, I was a huge advocate for Target. It had a huge dividend yield, and it's again, I would have considered it a value stock. But now it looks like the Target has sold out to the culture of death, and let's see exactly how that has looked like in the last couple of weeks. So let's look at the 5-year trend, and let's see. So we see that it has had a, from 2019, when I said there was some value behind it, it was really affordable, $61. That's for a Target stock. I think that's a steal. Now, the reason I would have considered it a value stock, it went all the way up to 260, and I remember having a few of those stocks, and I think I was trading those quite frequently, so I never really held for that long. But now that with the last couple of years and the downward trend of the market, we see that it did start hitting started being more cyclical, and it looks like it was cycling. But now in the last month, we see that it has decreased 14%. Now 14%, that's huge. And so the market has decreased, and it has been a significant loss for the investor. And that's what you get when you start going in ways that the consumer is not completely for. And that's when we started noticing that on social media that there was a lot of very disturbing stuff, especially when you're concerned with the devil being praised and worshipped. It's quite obvious the way that Target was going about this, blatantly putting satanic images on children clothing, and that is disturbing. Even to non-believers, it is a direction that may cause some people to not be happy about. So now let's go on to the Anheuser-Busch. It was a little strange in the beginning because Bud Light tried to sweep it under the rug, saying that this was just a one-off thing with Dylan Mulvaney, and they tried to write it off as if it were just an experimental project that they were doing with this individual. But it ended up having a lot of negative repercussions for their company. And the last thing I read is that they've been having losses in the last six weeks, and it's just from one little can. But again, the investor is showing concern by either pulling out of the market or shorting that stock. So let's see what's going on. So in the last 5 years, and actually I have never looked into Anheuser-Busch and never took them seriously. It looks like they haven't really been on a upward trend. In the past 5 years, it's dropped 42% in their price. And let's look at the last 6 months. Same thing. It's been consistently inconsistent, which is not where you want to be when you are picking individual stocks. And yeah, in the last year, we can see that there has been some trend. If you look at the October to June time frame, there has been some increase. But now in the last month, we see a 15% drop. Again, very similar to Target. And it's no coincidence that there has been a significant drop to the stock's price and the Dylan Mulvaney thing. The next stock, I think the next one I wanted to look at was North Face. So North Face is a clothing company that I believe was very popular when I was 18. That's a while ago. And they too started participating in the culture of death. And if you go that direction, let's see what happens. So let's go look at that chart. Oh, it looks like in the last day, and it has been increasing. So maybe this company is, well, the parent company is VF Corp. So it might not have as a significant influence on its price, since North Face is just a facet of its business. But let's see. Yeah, it looks like it hasn't been. There has been a drop. Now we also have to see this within context, because we have to look at how the Dow has been doing in the last few months to get a good pulse on the market and the other stocks. So let's look at that. Okay, so in the last 6 months, let's look at the year. So in the last year, we have seen an 846 point increase. That is a 3% increase in the Dow. And I'm using the Dow because the Dow is very popular and it's to the point. You'll see the biggest companies on there. We don't have to go through the S&P 500 and get all the noise, but we are seeing a 3% increase in the last year, which is we're halfway into the year. Let's see if we can sustain that, not go the other direction. But again, with inflation and what's going on in the Senate, we need to continue to have a good gauge on what's going on, so we can look at the market and have confidence in the market. Okay, so in the last month, let's go like 6 months. Yeah, we've seen a drop of 184 points. It's not a huge cause for concern, but it is a concern. Now, we have seen sort of a 88 points, very typical for a down year. Not very much change, very inconsistent. So we see that there has been there may be some correlation between the entire market and the other stocks that we were looking at. So what do we do with all this information? Again, the purpose of this channel is to equip us Christians to better handle our stewardships that have been given from God, to look at different companies that might be involved in immoral and unethical practices. Once we start looking into the hood of some of these companies, and we all also know through the media, we're actively engaged in different media outlets, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, even TikTok now, Facebook. When we see these companies come up, we're gonna go look and see what's going on. We don't want to be participating in those companies that are engaging in these unethical and immoral practices. And so let's continue to do that. And so another thing that I want to do on this channel is to look to start looking closer into stock picking. It's going to be in a very educational approach to how to approach a stock pick. And even that, there's a lot that we can say on the different ways that we can learn what stock picking really, truly, and definitely is. For example, what do we know about the psychology of stock picking? What do we need to do to understand risk when it becomes a barrier of entry? Those are things that we need to answer. And last, Bitcoin. I am not an advocate for Bitcoin, but we will be looking into it and see if that is an avenue that we want to go down. So it's another financial class that has been getting a lot of traction in the last 15 years. I think 15 years. I don't forget when Bitcoin first started becoming a thing. But it is important to equip ourselves to understand Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. It's all the rage now. And once there was the switch in office, we started seeing that the Bitcoin crowd started being more silent than before. Because at one point, that's all you could hear. It's all Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. And now, where are they? I don't know. And yeah, it's this is a financial channel that is being done by a Christian. I am a Christian. I believe that Jesus Christ resurrected, and I believe that he sits at the right hand of the Father. And I believe that my salvation rests in Jesus Christ. And I believe he's coming back. So this is also that. Not less than that, but also that. So when we're talking about these things, we are doing it through a theological perspective. Or if we don't want to say theology, we can just say, hey, it's through a Christian perspective. But nevertheless, this will be a channel that will be coming after unethical behavior, unethical practices, and we will not be bowing the knee to immorality, because that's not what a Christian does. We want to be vocal about these things, and yeah, that's going to be the purpose of the show. And right for now, we're going to be doing maybe a couple of episodes a week, but at least one episode. And for now, this was the first episode, and I'm just starting to do this, and I really want to encourage people to take their stewardship seriously, because it is important that we do that. God has given us things. God has given us resources, family included. He has given us so much. And when we receive those things in thanksgiving, but also that we use those things to the glory of God. Because that's what the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. And the best way to do that is to take his things and love them and care for them. And when it comes to financial stewardship, let's find ways to do it, to use that to its maximum efficiency. It's there's always something that we can do to allocate our money well. So let's do that. Come with me and continue to subscribe to this channel if you're interested in these things. But most importantly, let's fight. That's not the most important thing, but I do think that it is important that we speak up to these companies that are exposing the demonic, the satanic, the perverse nature of man to our children. Our children are vulnerable, and how to do that better, but to hit at them where it hurts their pockets. Don't invest in these companies. It's short and easy. There's plenty of other companies you can invest in. Yeah, no company is going to be perfect. Man is not perfect, but there's other companies that are doing cool things. There's plenty of companies that have a better product than Target. There's better beer than Bud Light. Let's go and see what they're doing. And if it means, hey, you like Bud Light, and stop buying it. It's not that good. I like Bud Light, but not anymore. And so there's different ways of approaching that, and it's easy to be complacent. Being complacent with these companies, it's what it is. It's, you're not doing anything, and maybe I'm going off on a tangent, but it's so we'll continue to talk, and we'll engage, and this is just the first episode. This episode is very introductory, and we'll hope that we create a community that becomes financial savvy, that is Christian based. My goal is to speak with our resources, whether it be our time, whether it be our finance, or even our families. We need to do these things well. So let's continue to seek God in all things. Let's continue to pray and ask for wisdom when it comes to our financial stewardship, and continue to watch this channel so we better educate ourselves on all financial things. Well, mostly financial things when it comes to stocks. But yeah, it's gonna be a good thing. See y'all later.